Hello, welcome to Unboxed God, where we detox from religion and discover the God who refuses to sit inside the boxes we were given. I'm Tolu Sarah Jensen, and here we explore who God really is beyond fear, beyond formulas, and beyond everything we were taught to perform. If you're hungry for a real relationship with Him, you are in the right place. Let's dive in. So, this is still on the current playlist of the 54 parables. And like I did say earlier on, this has been grouped into themes. And this is the first theme, which has got 12 parables in them. So this is the second to the last one, and it's the parable 11th, which is the parable of the faithful servant. So we can quickly breeze through the other parables. The first parable we did was about the alert servant, which is teaching us about how we need to wake up, don't sleep through your calling. Then we went on to barren fig trees, which is alive with leaves, but no fruit, is in danger. Then we went to budding fig tree, which is taught us to learn to read the seasons of God. And then we went to the children in the marketplace, which says, don't be unmoved by heaven's song, people who are not moved by heaven's songs and warnings. Then to Christian light, which is let your light shine, not just your language. Then we move to the parable of the salt, which means be the salt of the world. Then we went on to the parable of the signs of Jonah, don't ignore repentance and warning. Then we went on to the 10 virgins, have oil, be ready for my coming. And then unprepared builder, count the cost before you call yourself my disciple. And the last one I've just finished is the watching servant, which means stay awake, live ready while you wait. Now Jesus goes deeper, not just be ready when I come, but be trustworthy with what I gave you while I'm gone. So this parable answers a painful question. What kind of person do I become when Jesus feels far away and his return looks delayed? So before we dive in there, we need to read the Bible passage up for this parable, which is Matthew 24, 45 to 51. Which says, who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord had made ruler over his household to give them meat in due season? Blessed is the servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. And if that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servant, and to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looked not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So Jesus described two servants in the same house, under the same master, with the same assignment. The master gives one servant responsibility, care for the other servant, feed them, manage the household in his absence. And Jesus says a faithful and sensible servant is the one who keeps doing this while the master is away. So when the master returns and finds him doing that, he rewards him. He puts him in charge of all he owns. But Jesus then gives the opposite picture. Another servant says in his heart, my master won't be back for a while. So he abused the other servant, use them instead of serving them. Parties, get drunk, lives carelessly. That is what the church is today. The pastors, the prosperity pastors, and the non-prosperity pastors, they become domineering. They abuse their members. The members that Jesus told them to serve, they become the Lord and boss over them. There is nothing about a servant leadership that Jesus expressed or Jesus lived while he was here. Today is about serving the pastor, not the other way around, which is supposed to be the right way. So they are having fun, getting drunk, just living the careless. Then the master comes unexpectedly, unannounced, and cuts him off and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. Same house, same master, same delay, two completely different responses. And look at it again. This is similar to the parable of the 10 virgins and the parable that we've just treated. Still about the master coming unaware. So you can't say Jesus did not warn you enough, because there's so many warnings in the Bible that we keep ignoring. So what makes a servant faithful and wise? In Jesus' eyes, faithfulness is not, I went to church. I went to church for 24 years. I said the sinner's prayer. I did say it at the beginning. I was busy with Christian things. I was always busy with Christian things. Faithfulness is, however, hearing what Jesus taught and actually doing it. We've heard the pattern already. In the house on the rock imagery, the wise man is he who that hears and obey. The foolish man is the one that hears and doesn't obey. So that same contrast appears here. Faithful servant is equal to lives, is equal to someone that lives by Jesus' teaching consistently. An evil servant knows better but chooses comfort, indulgence, and abuse. And here's the hard part. Jesus exposes many Christians are not faithfully obeying Jesus' teaching, simply because they never bothered to seriously learn them. And it's not that the truth is unavailable. We have the Bibles, we have the teachings, we have the books like this one that's been written on the parable. I know that so many teachings do not teach what Christ has taught. They teach man-made rules. But if you still desire truth, there's still a way that you can get it. And just do your best with whatever you have. Jesus sees your heart. It says if you've known that you've done your best based on what you know. So the problem is often, if I really understand what Jesus expects, then I know I'll be able to change. So I'd rather not look too closely. So the faithful servant is the opposite of that. They say, show me what you taught. Confront me. I want to obey you fully. So what does Jesus want to find you doing? Jesus says, blessed is the servant who his master, when he comes, will find so doing. Not so confessing, not so planning, not so promising, so doing. It means you found your assignment in God and you are actively working in it. Your life is not random anymore. It's aligned with his purpose. I have found my soul doing, and I do it with all my heart. You need to figure out what your soul doing is. Your soul doing might be being a cleaner in a company. That might be your own soul doing. Maybe you love to cook. That might be your own soul doing. You like to welcome people. So the soul doing does not have to be spiritually alienated. That's what you need to know. So in your language, not just I'm a Christian, but I am using my time, gifts, money, relationship, and voice in a way that matches what Jesus asks of me. That is what your life should be. And Jesus highlighted that many, even in church, don't know their God-given purpose. And that's sad. They drift, they serve a system or chase survival, but never truly step into what they were created for. So the faithful servant has allowed Jesus to define their purpose. Yes, they allow Jesus to redirect their path like he has done for me. They allow him to keep them there, even when it's costly and hidden. Yes, Jesus has been directing my life since the day I've been saved. He has always spoken through me, through my husband. So I've always had that leading. And I must tell you, a lot of them were costly, were difficult to obey. I cried. But I'm glad I went through that training now, because it's given me such a discipline that somebody that doesn't go through that lesson will never be able to cope with what I have to grapple with on a daily basis. So God knows what you're going to be. I cannot operate at Elon's Musk. Elon has been given that grace. I cannot operate at Donald Trump's. He's been given. So your grace will be given to you for your calling. So what do you do when you feel that he is delaying? The evil servant turns point. The evil servant's turning point is a thought. My master won't be back for a while. And that's where religion often reveals its true heart. There's time. I'll get serious later. Right now I can play, compromise and indulge. Oh my God. You can say there's time and Jesus calls you back home today. Your next day is not guaranteed. He is the only one that knows who is going to go to bed today and not wake up tomorrow. So when Jesus feels far away, for some it exposes love. They keep serving quietly, faithfully. For others, it exposes self. They use people, seek comfort, and live like it's not returning. So two different people live with different approach. One is expressing love, one is living love, and the other one is exposing self, living just for themselves. So the evil servant beat the other servant, abuse authority, mistreat fellow believers, uses people instead of serving them. And that's what a lot of churches today. And party and go to party and get drunk, chooses to indulge over holiness, chooses pleasure over obedience. And this is not just about literal drunkenness. It is about a spiritual drunk life. Yes, dulled by entertainment, numbed by comfort, uninterested in Jesus' actual words. Yes, and the parable is a mirror. What do you do with people and power when you think no one is watching? That's a question you need to answer. And let's finish with this analogy, the family business test. Imagine a father who owns a large family company. He has several children. Two of them study business, listen carefully to the father, learn the value of the company, show up early, treat employees well, protect the reputation of the business. When the father grows old, he must choose who will run the company, who can handle the weight of the brand, the staff, the money, the legacy. He doesn't choose based on who talk the most, who had the loudest opinions at the dinner table, who claimed, I love you, Dad, the loudest. He chooses the child who was faithful in small things, consistent behind the scene, treating his people well, honoring his heart. And that's what Jesus is saying here. He's not impressed by your loud Christian language, your public image. He does not care. Your spiritual titles, he does not care. He's watching. How do you treat my people? How do you handle what I put in your hands? Are you faithful when nobody is clapping? The faithful servant will share in the master's affairs. The evil servant will lose everything. And when you look at reward and rulership, what does overall his good mean? Over all of his goods. Jesus says, if the master returns and finds that the servant has done a good job, there will be a reward. He will put the servant in charge of all he owns. This point is beyond heart, to responsibility in heaven, to leadership in the age to come. Heaven is not clouds, apps, or boredom. It is cities full of assignment, full of roles, full of responsibility, full of joy, full of meaningful work with Jesus. So not everyone will lead a region or a city in heaven, but everyone's faithfulness on earth will shape their role there. Some, like Paul, are less interested in rulership. That said, this Apostle Paul is not really interested. He is more focused on teaching, discipling, deepening understanding. But Jesus is saying, I will promote based on faithfulness, not on earthly fame or church politics. Very little people or nobody knows Matthew Robert Payne, but he is going to be promoted to the higher realm in heaven because he deserves it. He's lived his life in Eden, serving God faithfully. And he does not, nobody knows. But you've got people that own the state that you think they're going to be at the top. I was surprised today. Papa said, Tolu, even Billy Graham is not part of my 100 friends. Billy Graham was one of the biggest evangelists that really came to the earth that we know. But then Father said he only had 100 close friends and he said it was not there. Now Billy Graham is a close friend to him. But what I'm trying to point out is the fact that you've held big stages doesn't equate to you bigger than someone that's never been seen. You may be unnoticed here. You may never lead a church platform or ministry. But if you're faithful with what he gave you, where he placed you, in the assignment he whispered to you, heaven will honor that far more than we can imagine. So, the terrifying warning or the fate of the evil servant is this parable doesn't end soft. Jesus says the master will come when he is not expecting him, and he will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is Jesus' own language for judgment, hell, internal regret, and anguish. And this is not about slap on the wrist. You lose some reward. This is not about that. It is you claim to be servant, but your life proved otherwise. And there's so many people like that in church today. So just like in Matthew 7, Lord, Lord, did we not do this in your name? And Jesus will say, I never knew you. And like with the rich man and Lazarus, some will be in comfort, others will be in torment, and the choices made on earth will matter forever. So the parable is Jesus saying, don't play games with name and my people. If you use religion to feed yourself while abusing or neglecting others, there are consequences. So how can we apply this on her today? Focus on the parable that calls us to take Jesus' actual teaching seriously. Yes. You need to take the parables of Jesus very, very serious. Just give me a minute, please. I just need to do something quick. Take Jesus' actual teaching seriously. Learn his parables, his commandments, his ways, not to take a bus, but to align your life. Ask him honestly about your purpose. What did you create me for? How do you want me to serve your people? Be faithful in small things, in your current job, in your family, in your giving, in the way you treat people who can't repay you. Guard your heart against delayed thinking. Yes, I'll get serious later. There's time. He won't mind if I live for myself for now. Refuse abusive spirituality. Don't use influence, title, or knowledge to crush people. Be the servant who feeds others, not beat them. So, faithfulness in this parable is not glamorous. It is steady, hidden, and very real. What about people in heaven? For those already in heaven, this parable still speaks. It says there's more. There's always more that you can do. And it's so interesting. Every parable just comes back to the same thing for people in heaven. People often start doing what they love when they get to heaven, maybe cooking, creating, exploring, singing. But there's also an invitation to go higher. You can move away from what you're doing now, maybe to mentoring, to leading teams, to teaching, just stretching yourself. Go beyond your comfort zone, because a faithful servant in heaven is not someone who says, I'm done now, I've arrived. But someone who says, Jesus, what's next? How can I serve you? How can I serve more of your heart? Who can I love, equip, or encourage today? Heaven has no ceiling to grow in love and responsibility. Faithfulness continues there in a new way. So, how do we summarize this parable of the faithful servant? The parable builds on watchfulness and moves into trustworthiness. The faithful servant learns Jesus' teachings. They obey them. They care for his purpose. They stay faithful even when Jesus delays. The evil servant assumes there is time, uses people instead of serving them, lives for pleasure, ease, and self. So Jesus promises reward, rulership, and joy for the faithful, and judgment and separation for the abused, unfaithful, and hypocritical. So ultimately, this parable asks every one of us, if Jesus walked back into the room of your life today, what will he find you doing? With the people he entrusted to you and the gift he placed in your hand? That answer is what faithfulness look like. And I hope you can answer that well. But if you cannot answer it well, take the opportunity today to trace back and rectify your way. I hope you're blessed. See you in Parable 12.